Today we're going to talk about buying a house as a couple. Whether you're married or you're in a serious relationship, when you're buying a house as a couple, there's some information that you guys need to know and some conversations you should have before you start so you don't end up split up. If you're new to the channel, I've been a mortgage loan officer for 18 years. My team's one of the top teams in America. We can help you everywhere get home. 786-933-2077. The stuff I've seen over the last 18 years is crazy. We've moved more and more into a world where often people don't talk about finances. You know, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you probably had one breadwinner and they knew the bulk. Maybe the other person didn't know much. But we're now in a world where two income is the norm. Two income, I'm seeing separate bank accounts, totally different spending habits with credit. And I also see a lot of people that don't talk about money or their goals with their partner. So just as an example, have I had people multiple times say to me on the phone, Jennifer, they can't find out about my debt? Yeah, I have. Have I been on the phone and I've had to break to a wife that her husband racked up $150,000 in debt? Yeah, he wanted me to. That's even that's even the most messed up part, is that in some of these circumstances, I've had to be the person to give the bad news, right? Because like in that situation, the wife thought everything had been paid off. Like she was out there killing herself to pay off debt. The husband was out there taking out debt without telling her he had a gambling addiction. And she was paying off all this debt to be able to buy a house. She had no idea that he was taking out more debt. And it was through the loan application process that the rooster had to come home to roost. And it was incredibly awkward. At this point, like from my perspective, it's not awkward for me. I'm just used to it. It makes me sad. I'm always sad when I'm sitting there hearing someone's life break, hearing them cry, knowing, just the level of deception so bad, right? I've had it on the other side too, where the wife's like, he can't know that I opened up this card or this card. He's going to be so mad. Like I've seen financial abuse. Like the stuff I've seen is wild. And it's like, how do you avoid those circumstances? You need to talk about money. It's that simple. And look, if you're not married yet, if you're just starting to date and you're watching this and you're like, yeah, I could never talk to them about money. Break up now. Break up now. I'm sorry, someone needs to say this. I'm going to be your auntie for a minute. If you can share a bed with someone, you need to be able to share your checkbook. And if you can't, well, guess what? They're not the one. Okay? You need to have financial conversations. And you may be like, but I'm embarrassed. I have a lot of debt and they're rich and they don't have debt. Look, if someone's really meant to be the person in your life, they're going to help you get out of debt. They're not just going to write you a check, but I've seen it so many times where I'll have one client that has really good credit, really has a, strong head on their shoulder when it comes to finances. Their partner doesn't, but they help them and they teach them, and better long term, they're better off as a couple because they did this. So number one, if you're a couple, before you even apply for a loan, make sure you look at your credit together. Look at your debt together. If one of you is weaker than the other, the person who's stronger, do not talk down to them. Don't humiliate them. Help them. And the person who's weaker, don't be arrogant. Don't say things like, well, that's just who I am. I like debt. Don't do that. Learn. This will help you both in the long term. Okay? Because look, I've seen both of those. I've seen it where, someone's really rude to their partner and soul crushing. And I think a lot of times with finances, if someone has a lot of debt or maybe they don't have good credit, it's because they never learned how. And I think that with most people, at least I've seen, is once they learn how, everything changes for the better. So you're going to talk to each other about your debt as well as your assets, okay? A lot of times people come into this, even if they're married and they don't know how much money the other person has. This is important to knowing how you guys are going to handle the house. Next, income. That's right. you need to know what your partner makes. If you're buying a house together, beyond being a couple, you're also a business partner, and you need to know where your business partner stands. The one thing that I have seen, beyond the like, don't tell them about the debt, or I didn't know, oh, so horrible, is that I'll see with income, I'll see a huge discrepancy. So let's say that the house payment's going to be $5K. Let's say that she makes $200,000 a year. He makes $40,000 a year, and they're going to split the payment. What? How does that work? That doesn't work, right? If one person makes 200, the other makes 40K, how are they going to split the payment? That's not realistic. Right? That is how you build a relationship of resentment, because the person who makes 40K, they're not on equal footing from a financial perspective as the 200K. They can't really split the bill. And if this person doesn't know that this person makes 40K, they could be looking at houses being like, oh, it's 10K a month. I'll pay 5, you pay 5. And they're sitting there going, oh, that's more than I make. Right? But they're not saying it. So I do think talking about income is important, as well as who will pay what. Yeah. So whether you're married or not, I always see different perspectives on this. Now, look, if you are I don't want to say traditional American family, because I don't think it is anymore, but let's say that there's one breadwinner. I think it's really hard in most of the country to have one person pay the bills for a whole family. From what I've seen, I mean, daycare alone is $3,000 a month if you look in LA. So if you're in a situation with one income earner, well, then it's clear they're going to pay the mortgage. But if you're more of a traditional American family in today's day and age with what things cost, you need to talk about who's going to pay what, because a lot of times I've literally had the conversations where I talk to the wife. She's like, oh, well, he's going to pay it. And I talk to the guy and he's like, we're going to split it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, you guys need to get on the phone. And usually he'll be like, why? I'll be like, because your wife thinks you're going to pay the whole thing. And I'll call her. I'm like, you need to get on the phone. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because he thinks you guys are going to split the bill. So you guys need to figure this out. Now, look, as a lender, when I'm qualifying, is this my business? No, I don't really care. Like, I don't care from a lender perspective, from like me seeing this blow up and lead to unhappy marriages. Yeah, I care there. And also, I do think it's a good financial practice to have realistic expectations, because a lot of times when I see a house end up a divorce house, right? I'll get a call from one person and it'll be like, Jen, the marriage didn't work out. 30% of the time, I'm like, oh, I'm so shocked. Like you knew at the time, because everybody was on a different page and everybody had different expectations and no one would talk about it. That never works out well. And look, if you're in a situation where someone's saying, I expect you to pay half, and you make a lot less than they do, they may not know. And here's the thing, like let's say I was single and I was dating, and let's say that I was dating someone that made 3 times as much as I did, and they wanted to split the house bill with me. I would laugh for about 25 minutes straight. Like I probably wouldn't stop laughing for 2 days. Like forget it. Like it has to make sense from a financial perspective. And that's not me being a gold digger. If it was reversed, the same thing. If I was with someone who made a lot less than I did, would I expect them to go half? No, I would be covering the bulk. Okay. So really make sure you're having these financial conversations. It can feel awkward and weird. And if it starts to feel awkward and weird, I just want you to go back to the bedroom mentally and go, really? This feels awkward and weird? Couldn't resist. Okay. What else? The other thing is, I do think it's a good idea to do a worksheet of what your goals are with the property. Sometimes I'll be talking to couples and the realtor will be like, they're never going to find a house. And I'm like, why? She's like, talk to them. So I talked to them and the guy's like, I love condos. They're so great. And the wife's like, I want a farm. Okay. Those are 2 different things. We got to get on the first page. If you go to jenniferbeeston.com, I actually have a tool section and I have a home buyer worksheet. Print up 2 separate copies. I'm old school. Get your printer out. Go to work. Ask them to print it. Go to Kinko's. And each of you fill it out separately. Okay. It asks all these different questions about what your goals are with the house, et cetera, et cetera. Then have a meeting and discuss it. And I'm telling you right now, If you do these very simple things before you apply for a house, when you apply to get pre-approved, you guys are going to be bulletproof. When you go shopping, you're going to have already had the argument about farm versus condo. You'll already know what your solution is, right? Or it could be that he's like, I really wanted that condo, but I know you want those baby goats and they're cute. I'll do it. Or it could be, I wanted a farm, but condo life is better. We do travel, 14 weeks a year for work, which obviously doesn't work with a farm. So have these conversations before you start looking. Have these conversations before you start applying. Because I'm telling you right now, as a mortgage lender, I can't hide the numbers. It's going to be on the application and your partner is going to see it. Questions, comments, has this happened to you? Drop it in. 786-933-2077. Thanks for watching, guys.